In this lesson, we'll connect the Flexi Line to the torso. Let's go ahead and merge the Flexi Line rig into our scene. So it's going to be File, Import, Merge. So in our Assets directory, we'll go ahead and find our Flexi rig and choose Open. We'll choose All, so everything will get imported in, and choose OK. So there it is. Let's head over to Layers. We'll go ahead and show the Flexi hidden layer, so we can go ahead and grab the top node and rename the entire rig to the section it will be connected to, which is the spine. So with Flexi Line rig, with that object selected, we'll hold down Control and press page down to grab the entire hierarchy. And now under Tools, we can use the Rename Objects tool to give this a prefix. I'll uncheck base name, I'll check prefix, and the prefix is going to be spine underscore, and we'll choose rename. Alright, great. So you can see each object has that prefix now. Alright, next let's go ahead and rename the layer, the Flexi layer, to spine underscore Flexi hidden. Alright, so it shares the same prefix. Alright, so now we can go in and hide this layer, and we can start to reorient the Flexi rig. Let's go ahead and grab the global control. With the global node selected, we can go to our rotate tool and make sure to rotate this 90 degrees in our x-axis. Alright, so if you were to take a look at this, it looks like the twist axis is the Z, but remember the connect curves here, the twist axis is actually Y, so this is going to work out very well. Alright, let's go ahead and take the Flexi's global object and let's make sure it's centered between the chest and the pelvis. We can use position constraints to do that. So with it selected, we'll alt-right click and grab our position constraint, and let's go ahead and grab our chest control. Great. Let's run the same tool again, choose the position constraint, and we'll now select our pelvis control. Alright, once it has been centered, what I'd like to do from here is make sure it's going to be tied to the correct object. Let's make sure it's tied to our center of gravity so that it will drive the transforms of the entire rig. We still need to be concerned with our scaling control, so that's going to be done slightly different. But as far as translating and rotating this system, as far as that goes, we've linked to the correct object. Alright, great. Well, once that's taken care of, we can start to resize this, and then we can freeze our transforms. So let's start to drag the size down to the point where the connect curves are aligned to the chest and our pelvis. Alright, so taking a look at the size here, it looks like about a size of, let's say 40 will work well, so I'll go ahead and type that in. I'll type that into the scale X, and that should update the other two channels. Alright, great, so once we have resized this, we can now go in, I'll right click and choose Freeze Transform. Great. Now you'll see that the object kind of shifts, and that's simply because of those position constraints. So if this happens, I'll go ahead and just undo that back. Here's a way to get around this, and we actually will use the same technique when it is time to connect the Flexi rig to the limbs. But all we need to do is go in and create a helper. So we'll go ahead and create a point helper. Go ahead and add that to our scene, and let's go ahead and align it to our Flexi's global node. So I'll just use a quick align to do that. Alright, now if we were to go in and select the Flexi's global control, alt right click and choose Freeze Transform, yes, it's going to shift, but all we need to do now is use Shift A to align that back to our helper, and we're good to go. So now at this point, we can safely go in and freeze the transforms of our Flexi object, and we no longer need this helper. So you can see everything is still going to work just fine. Alright, very nice. All right, so once that's taken care of, we can go ahead and work on position constraining the connect curves to the controls that will drive them. So we'll grab the connect curve tied to the chest. We'll alt right click, grab our position constraint, and tie that to our chest control. There we go. Let's do the same thing for the pelvis. Grab the connect curve, alt right click, grab our constraint, and connect that to the pelvis. We'll test this out. Notice we're getting our squash and stretch. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and check the chest control. That's looking great. Now, how about twisting? Well, all we need to do is work with wire parameters. With our chest control selected, let's go ahead and right-click and choose wire parameters. That's going to be transform, rotation, 0 Euler, Y. Let's actually go ahead and do that again. Just want to make sure that we are grabbing the Y channel. We have changed the axis order of this object, so you can see that that has also rearranged our channels. So Y is actually at the bottom. Let's go ahead and grab that and tie that to the connect curves Y-axis. So that's transform, rotation, 0 Euler. There it is, Y. So just checking to make sure everything's going to connect in properly, we'll use the lower arrow and choose connect. All right, great. So to test this out, with the chest selected, we should be able to go in and start to rotate and get some nice twisting. Very exciting. Okay, let's do the same thing for the pelvis. We'll grab our connect curve and let's go ahead and tie that to our hip control. We'll go ahead and right click and choose wire parameters. It's going to be transform, rotation, 0 Euler, Y. We'll go ahead and now select the pelvis control, transform, rotation, 0 Euler, Y. Now I've selected the chest or the pelvis control last, so we just need to check our order here. You can see that whatever we have selected first is going to be loaded in on our left side. So since we selected our animation control last, we just want to use this center arrow so that we connect from the control into the connect curve. Now we can go ahead and connect this down, close out of our wire parameters dialog, and go ahead and start to move the pelvis control to test things out. Beautiful stuff. All right, so everything is working properly. All right, so once we've managed to do that, we now need a convenient way to turn on and off our squash and stretch. Right now, the Flexi's global control is nested inside of the character. So if we were to press F3, notice it's going to be very inconvenient to get to that channel. But no worries, we can always add it to something that's a lot easier to select, which in this case is our center of gravity control. So with that selected, let's go to our modify panel. Again, it'd be nice to work with an attribute holder. So we'll go ahead and alt right click and grab that. We'll rename this to extra control, something generic, so we can add as many parameters as we'd like without any confusion. We know that any extra controls that we need to access from this object will be added here. All right, so from there, we'll press Alt-1 to grab our parameter editor. We will work with a Boolean parameter type. We could always work with a checkbox, it's fine. Let's go ahead and name this spine vol for volume underscore active. When we hit enter, we can go ahead and check and make sure that this is going to display properly. And right now it's kind of getting cut off because of the width of the parameter. So let's go ahead and increase the width to about 100. That's much better. So let's go ahead and now add it, and there we have it. So now all we need to do is a little bit of wiring. Let's go ahead and right click with the center of gravity selected and choose wire parameters. That's going to be modified object, extra controls. We'll find the spine volume channel and tie that to the Flexi global active channel. All right. So we have loaded the center of gravity's channel in first, so that's on the left side, so we'll need to use a slower arrow and choose connect. So take a look, right now it's off on the center of gravity, so that means it's off on our Flexi object. But when we go to the center of gravity and turn that on, now it's on the Flexi control. All right, great, so that's working very well. We're just about finished with this lesson. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup work. we can make sure that the global node for the Flexi rig is added to the Flexi hidden layer here. Choose add. We could also do the same thing for our connect curves. Let's go ahead and select them both and add them to that same layer. Great. Now for the bone objects, we'll want to make sure that all of these are stored in our bones layer. Great, and we'll test that out. Perfect. Now the bend control, let's go ahead and select that and add that to our controls layer. We need a more convenient way to animate this control. Again, it's nested inside of the character. It's very difficult to select. So we can worry about that in the next lesson. That's going to be our next task.